Which is an early stage venture capital fund. We've invested in 24 companies in the last 4 years in Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. We plan to be around for a long time. We just had our first fund. We're doing our second fund coming up now. I guess one of the things that people ask me around, why is VC in Africa so immature, or how is it going, the trends? And I would say that, first of all, venture capital is not an easy thing for most people to grasp. It's a Western concept coming to Africa. And so it takes a while for people to understand what that means. Investing has been going on a long time in Africa, right? Textiles, tires, plastics, grocery stores. But VC for tech is a very different asset class, and it involves a lot of patience and expertise in how that works. For example, portfolio theory, doing a lot of investments, not just one or two concentrated, adding value through whether it's mentoring or expansion capital. That's something that is hard for an economy like Kenya to absorb early on if you don't understand how it works. The VC fund that I started was very small in the beginning, a couple of $1 million, and we tested a lot of things. Does it make sense to invest in a lot of companies, small amounts, follow on? We had an accelerator, we had a seed fund as well, and now in fund 2 we're thinking about going to a much bigger fund, Series A, investing in local entrepreneurs, foreign entrepreneurs, investing in which sectors, right? E-commerce versus like on-demand or fintech or edtech. A lot of things we tested, and I had the luxury to be able to do that. So in the first fund you can do that, then maybe the next fund you can scale it out, whatever works. So that's been my general path, but the question is who invests in these funds? So I was lucky to have Western investors like Dave McClure, Savannah Startups, Tim Draper, who understand VC but don't understand Africa. But I understand Africa, so I can come to Africa with an understanding of VC and backers who are coming into Africa with understanding. The question is, how do we get local capital? Which, if you got mobilized, you get more local funding, and that makes sense, right? If you're a purely foreign fund, impact or venture capital fund, maybe your headquarters is New York, London, it's hard to find local entrepreneurs, right? But if you are maybe a Kenyan fund manager with Kenyan investors, if you say, hey, look, there's an M-Pesa, suddenly everyone can see it, right? As opposed to communicating it back to New York, there's different context. So I'm a big fan of having local fund managers. I think that's something that is the future. We've seen this happen in China, India, Southeast Asia, where local capital and fund managers eventually become more dominant, even though in the beginning you have the foreign ones, even corporate. So in Kenya, something that's interesting is actually the Chama groups, which, it's funny that it's been mentioned that, hey, there are no VC funds, but actually there's organized pooled capital in Kenya. Some of the big companies in Kenya, like Centum, Equity Bank, were built off Chamas. If you look around all the buildings in Kenya and Nairobi, you will see a lot of them had Chama money invested. So pooled organized capital is a thing, it's just called something different. And so I had to relearn what that means. In Kenya, Tanzania, we have SACCOs, but Chama culture isn't as good or strong. But in Kenya, the average Kenyan, I think, is maybe a member of 3 or 4 Chama. I've heard that stat. Their school network, maybe their church, maybe their work, maybe a family one. So that's kind of very typical. So maybe there's a way we can channel Chama funding into startups through maybe venture capital funds. Maybe a Chama has invested in real estate, invested in businesses that are large, and they want exposure to tech. That could be one path. Or they could start their own VC fund or co-investment fund with a VC. But my point is that there's a lot of capital in Kenya locally that's already going into safe assets or established businesses like real estate, right? But how do we take that and channel it into venture capital funds, particularly as they start to see the opportunity in tech, and they learn from their Western counterparts, So I guess it has to come together at some point, right? When does a Kenyan Chama back a local fund manager who understands venture capital, and when does a foreign VC come into Kenya at the same time, infusing and helping local ecosystem as well? Maybe it can be follow-on capital, not the first stage, but the next stage. So that's kind of how I see the end game, maybe in 5 years' time, begin to play out. And then of course, there are pieces like exits. The Chama groups will ask how to get your money back. Until they see exits happen, they won't necessarily go into it. And so that may take time. Maybe the foreigners take a little bit more risk in understanding how that is. And then, let me put it this way. If your neighbor sold a company for, 10 billion Kenyan shillings, everyone in the neighborhood would know about it, and they would ask how that happened. And if they hear that he started a company supposedly within 3 or 4 years, they might do more of that, right? And then of course investors hear that these investors made a lot of money, right? And so angel investors in Kenya, venture capital funds, maybe foreign initially, when they start making money, the other locals will start to be like, okay, there's opportunity here, right? And so that's kind of how I see that developing.